All right, here we go.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Link Senior webinar. Today, we are providing one free NAB, NCAP, and/or NCCDP CEU credit. In order to be eligible for the CEU credit, you do need to remain on this webinar for the full hour. At the end of the webinar, I will provide the required post-webinar CEU survey evaluation link in the webinar room chat box, and it will also be sent by email this afternoon. Please check your email spam folder. The survey must be completed by midnight Eastern Time this Thursday. If you have questions about our CEU process, we ask that you please read our new FAQ page, which I have just pasted in the chat box. And CEU certificates will be issued by the end of the day on Friday this week by email. Again, please check your spam folder in case it lands there. And now I'm going to hand it over to Charles DeVille Morton, CEO and co-founder of Link Senior. Charles?
Thank you, Megan, and welcome, everyone. I am excited to be with you today. I am extremely excited for the webinar that we've prepared for you. And I'm also very excited about this new Activity Strong project initiative that we are about to launch. And let me show you why. We at Link Senior, with our partners at NAP and NCAP, are extremely excited to be working with TimeSlips on a 5-week program that we're going to announce today and then kick off in a couple weeks. And today's webinar is information about this that will be presented by both Sam and Andrew, project managers with TimeSlips. So today's webinar, TimeSlips Shining a Light on Creative Engagement, is part of our Activity Strong series for resident engagement professional. And as I mentioned, I am joined both by Sam, project manager of TimeSlips, and Andrew, also project manager with TimeSlips. For myself, as Megan mentioned, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Link Senior, and I believe that all people are cool, and obviously that our industry, the senior living industry, is activity strong. As you might know, Link Senior started in this both of these initiatives as a way to dignify and respect the older adults that our industry serves, but also when it comes to activity strong, to empower and educate and acknowledge the fantastic work done by activity and life enrichment directors. Just a quick introduction about Link Senior as background. We provide an evidence-based resident engagement platform for senior living. We are an evidence-based platform where the fruit of our research was actually published in a peer-reviewed journal, where we showed not only ties to quality of life, such as increase of cognitive functioning and increase of social engagement, but also financial return for the organization that we partner with. We started this webinar series more than 3 years ago as a way to empower the frontline staff and team members in charge of the engagement of the older adults. And we've been blessed by this incredible platform that then morphed into Activity Strong as a response to COVID-19. And we've been able to get fantastic speakers, in large part thanks to you, the audience. So this is a way to invite you, and please let us know if you feel there are either speakers and or topics that we should consider for our upcoming webinars. And the email is shown here. And with that, I'd love to give the control to Andrew, who's going to start the part of the presentation called Shine Your Light, a Creative Care Celebration. Thank you, everyone. Sam and Andrew, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Charles, and thank you also to everyone else for joining us today. Here we go. Sam and I are also so excited to be collaborating with Activity Strong and on this project, and really excited to share some of the work that we have been doing over the last few weeks to create some of the resources and support for this project. And we're really excited to share this with you today. So to begin, make sure that there we go, have control again. Thanks, Ross. We're going to start with a brief land acknowledgement as well. So I'm going to pass things over to my colleague Sam to kick us off, and then I will share mine. Is that?
Good afternoon, everyone. As Andrew and Charles said, I am Sam Goodrich. TimeSlips has a network that is all across the United States and in 19 countries across the world. But today I am speaking from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I acknowledge in Milwaukee that that we are on traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, and Menominee homeland along the southwest shores of Michigamme, North America's largest system of freshwater lakes, where the Milwaukee, Menominee, and Kinnickinnic rivers meet, and the people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, and Mohican nations remain present. Andrew? Yes, go Green Bay.
And I am joining you all from Detroit, Michigan. And I acknowledge that here in Detroit, we are on the traditional lands and territory of the Anishinaabe people, also known as the Three Fives of the Confederacy, comprising the Ojibwe, the Ottawa, and the Potawatomi. The forced removal of Indigenous people from these lands is a history that must be acknowledged along with the current struggles of all Indigenous people. And Sam, if you are interested in learning more about land acknowledgements, and if you are in the US and Canada and finding out which native lands you are currently on, Sam just put a number in the chat that you can text to find that, and a website as well that you can visit for more information. So thank you. To get us started, real quick, a quick overview of what we're going to do today in this webinar. We are going to together learn a little bit more about TimeSlips and our organization and the creative engagement techniques that have been proven to bring joy and meaning into the lives of older adults. Very specifically, we'll identify two of the core concepts that we use at TimeSlips in the creative engagement strategies and how they can be used really for anybody to create a shared experience. We'll get a chance to demonstrate some of those activities and give you a sense of what some of these creative activities as part of the Shine Your Light project will look like. And then we'll tell you more about that project and how you can use some of these strategies to engage older adults living with cognitive decline and various physical abilities as part of this wonderful Shine Your Light celebration. There we go. Sorry, I thought I lost control for a second there, Charles. Actually, I think I skipped ahead a little bit. To get us started, we're going to tell you a little bit more about TimeSlips, and then in a moment, we're going to share with you a very short little video that if you know TimeSlips, you may have seen before. But it's such a lovely introduction to our organization that I always like to watch it again. So I hope, again, if you don't know about our organization, this will give you a lovely introduction into what we do. And if you do know about TimeSlips already, just bear with us while we share this information for those who are new to us. So for 20 years, our organization has taught care partners to replace the pressure to remember with the freedom to imagine. And by doing that, we try to bring meaning and purpose into the lives of elders through creative engagements. We offer training and opportunities to activities professionals like yourselves and other people working in various professions. But we also offer a lot of free resources, online prompts and tools for creative storytelling and a variety of engaging activities for people of all ages and abilities. Altogether, we, as a creative care organization, we harness the power of imagination to try and change the way the world understands aging and dementia. So now I'm going to go to this lovely little video. It's about 2 minutes that will just give you a little bit more introduction to our organization and give you a little bit of an introduction into the techniques that we will talk about in a little bit more detail shortly.
What is TimeSlips? We are a nonprofit inspiring a global movement to bring meaning and joy to late life through creative engagement. Let me show you what I mean. When the changes that come with aging meet the demands of our daily lives, it can be difficult to connect. Even if we want to connect, it can be hard to know how. When we do try to connect, our impulse is to draw on the past. But for people with memory loss, this approach can lead to shame and embarrassment. Focusing on who the person was, rather than accepting and valuing who they are now. TimeSlips offers another approach, to shift from the expectation of memory to the freedom of imagination. In the emotional and symbolic language of the arts, there are no wrong answers. People we thought might be lost to us, we can reach with sound and movement, with words and images. We can find joy again, together, connecting through creativity, one-on-one, at the bedside or kitchen table, or in groups, at libraries, memory cafes, museums, or in assisted living, senior centers, or skilled nursing. TimeSlips is fueling a creative care revolution to change the way we think about late life and how we engage with elders, from a time of isolation and loss to a time of growth and meaningful connection. Connect through creativity with TimeSlips. Learn more. TimeSlips.org.
Great. So again, for those of you who perhaps are new to our organization, I hope that that video gave you a little bit more context into our background and history and our techniques as well, and how we use creativity as a way to connect and engage with others. So now I'm going to go through briefly two of the main core concepts that we use at TimeSlips, yes and beautiful questions. So we're going to start with yes and Sam and myself have a background in theatre and performing arts. That's how we kind of came to TimeSlips. And for those of you who know, our founder, Anne Basting, as well, is a theatre artist. And TimeSlips essentially began out of her work as a PhD student, working with older adults as part of her studies. And if you are someone who likes to go to the theatre or sort of performance activities, I know we can't really do that right now, and it's really sad, and I'm certainly missing that. So for a brief moment, as I try to explain yes and, we're gonna imagine that we're at a performance right now, and let's say that Sam and myself are doing a little bit of comedy improvisation, and in that world, yes and is the golden rule. It's what you need to have a successful, hopefully fun and engaging performance. And how that works in that context is that, let's say that Sam and I are on stage in front of all of you lovely people, and we're going to improvise a little scene for you. And I ask the audience to maybe give me a location of where our scene can begin. Let's say, for example, that someone shouts out to us that our scene should take place on Mars. I respond to that in a very positive and affirming way and say, yes, okay, our scene is going to take place on Mars. And we need like a topic or something else to kind of start our scene. So let's say that someone else offers a suggestion that it's a blind date. So then Sam and I accept that as well. And we go ahead with performing to you our version of a blind date that takes place on Mars. You can imagine yourself what that might look like and sound like. But I hope that helps just to give you a little bit of context of yes and in that context, in a sort of performative or creative way. Again, if anyone has experience with improv or knows that term, you'll know how essential that rule is to a successful kind of performance or improv moment. But for healthcare, for the world of healthcare, this is quite a radical concept because it's asking us to do kind of the opposite of what we're often trained to do and respond to someone that we're caring for exactly as they are in that moment and trying to put away for a moment who they might have previously been. So yes, and that first concept is the one that we will draw from a lot for this project. We'll get to demonstrate for you in a little bit more detail shortly. But along with that is the concept of beautiful questions. Again, those of you that know TimeSlips will know that beautiful questions are one of our kind of core concepts and a really simple and often beautiful way, hence the name, to engage with others. So a beautiful question we describe as is one that opens up a shared path of discovery. All beautiful questions are open-ended, which means that they can be answered however you would like. They're not questions that can elicit a simple yes or no response. And we often tell people, again, that there are no wrong or right answers. You can respond to a beautiful question however you want. Examples of beautiful questions might be things like, if you had a superpower, what could it be? If you had the ability to fly and could fly to anywhere in the world, where would you go? And so these questions can be simple ways of connecting with someone in a one-to-one conversation. They can be used as well as part of like a larger creative project like this. We also will talk about it in a little bit of detail later on. A great prompt to use in communicating over email or over the phone, even postcards as well. The responses can sometimes be simple ways of maybe reframing a difficult moment or starting a conversation when it's hard to know where to begin. But sometimes they can also result in really kind of profound and poetic responses as well. So again, we'll get a chance to practice some of these questions or demonstrate some of these questions to you in a moment. But now I'm going to pass things over to my colleague Sam, who is going to tell us a little bit more about the details of this wonderful Shine Your Light project. Sam.
Thank you, Andrew. So at TimeSlips, Andrew and I had so much fun putting this together, and the whole TimeSlips team really enjoyed thinking about creating activities for this current moment of COVID and physical distancing, and following the theme of light, something we're all missing in this long winter. So Shine Your Light is a 5-week celebration designed to illuminate, no pun intended, the industry with creative care and celebrate activity and life enrichment professionals and their residents. So beginning next week, January 25th, a new guide will be featured each week for those 5 weeks, including prompts for creative conversations and suggestions for various engaging activities. These guides will inspire participants to find joy and meaning through creative engagement and support them towards creating a final celebration of light. Next slide, please. And I am not looking at the chat, but if Andrew, if you could put that Activities Strong link in the chat for everyone. We'll be sharing this overview of the 5 weeks with you all, but I wanted to go over some of the basics and the things that you can expect from the guides that we'll be providing. So TimeSlips does aim to be as inclusive as possible for all various abilities. And with that in mind, we included a variety of mediums for all of the activities provided in the guides, from guided conversations to poetry, movement to music. We did this in an effort to increase the opportunity of success for all individuals. So you might find that some might work better than other activities for different individuals. These activities were designed to do one-on-one, but of course you can adapt them easily to be done in small groups as you are able to. These guides can either be printed off. We'll be sharing week 1 guide with you today in a little bit, and some of the activities are best printed off, but if you do have the access to a tablet or a way to use it digitally, there are benefits with that as well. So we have links included that will support you through your practice, either links to songs that we reference on YouTube, links to supporting videos from a TimeSlips facilitator. So there are benefits to both, but whatever you have access to will work just fine. Many of the activities also invite engagement from family members or other residents to participate and correspond with one another. Of course, we are all experiencing different levels of isolation and loneliness, so we did consider that in this work. And of course, we keep in mind physical distancing requirements that may be different depending on each community. But an example of how we do this is in week 3, we ask you to create or send a postcard to someone using a beautiful question and inviting that person to then share their response back. So there's a level of engagement and interactiveness with that. This can be done with members outside of your care community, potentially family members, students at a nearby school, other participating care communities in the Activities Strong network. Or you can keep it simple and simply exchange postcards from room to room, from resident to resident. There's still an effort of engagement there that is really necessary in this time. Also, you'll see that we list supplies that are suggested. And I want to point out that not all are required for participation. There's definitely some level of they're suggested for a reason. So some you can go less or go further with them. One I wanted to point out is activity 4, where we guide you to make a light jar. And Andrew actually made a prototype of this morning with materials he found in his home. Andrew, if you have it nearby, you can show us. But just this project is something to warm up each resident's room, add a little bit of ambiance through that light. But I bring that one up because if it's not in your budget, or if you don't have the resources available to you to have the materials, we would suggest that you consider reaching out to family members, posting on your social media channels, or even finding a community forum on Facebook. TimeSlips has had luck in the past with that, and people in your community are more often than not excited to be able to participate and help provide materials. So that's another way to engage the community. All of these weeks have different activities, as I mentioned, and we will have weekly Facebook Live events to go in more detail. And each week, Andrew and/or myself will share some tips and tricks and how you can deepen the engagement each week. So now, if we could, Charles, share the week 1 activity guide.
Sure.
Thank you. So Charles is bringing up the web page on activitystrong.com, and you'll see that there's a button right there to say, join the Shine Your Light celebration. So you'll click that. And this landing page has the event summary. There's directions on how to participate, and supporting links as well with the program overview that we just went over. But this, for right now, we're going to go into week 1. Thank you, Charles. And if you could scroll down to the second page. So all of the guides will look like this. And all of the guides also start with the same type of activity, which is a creative conversation. And Andrew and I will be demoing that with Wendy in just a moment. But the question that's highlighted each week is sort of the sub-theme of that week. So with the first week, it will be who or what is a light in your life. And you'll notice that there are questions to help you rephrase it if that question isn't well received with the person you're working with. And then there are follow-up questions underneath, if you can scroll a bit, Charles. And you can print that off, add the responses right to the paper, or jot it down on a notebook, however it best works for you. Okay, so I won't go into that anymore because we'll be sharing an example. And then on the, sorry, Charles, I meant that page. Perfect. If you could scroll down. So in this one, I mentioned we do different mediums in each activity, or each week, excuse me. The second activity in this first week is a sunshine worksheet. So this is more crafty, more visual arts. And we ask you to go a little bit deeper with that creative conversation, considering who or what they said brought them light in their life. And you can write their name. We give an example here, and then talk about the qualities of this person or thing and add that to the rays of sunshine. I'll point out that there are no wrong answers. So you can fill out the part in the middle and maybe 2 or 3 rays, or all of them. That's up to you. And if you scroll, Charles, you'll see that the next page is just a larger blank version of that. So instead of having to print out 20 guides, you can print out however many pages of this specific page. And then we designed it so it's easy to cut out and share later. You can scroll down to the next page. The last activity in this week is music related, and it is essentially a Mad Lib songwriting exercise. I think you'll have some fun with this one. This is an example of one guide that is linked. So if you do press that button, which you don't have to now, Charles, but if you press that button, it'll take you to a YouTube link with that song. So you can kind of bring the musical element to that room, to that one-on-one experience. So you can listen to the song together and then fill in that worksheet. We put blanks where there are usually lyrics, and you can consider, what has been said in the previous activities, and fill in that songwriting exercise. And then if you scroll down, Charles, to the next page. Each of the guides have a thoughtful action of the week. So these are ways for you to take it a little bit further if you like. And we also add some ideas for celebration elements. So all of these, we do ask that you do them in order if possible, so that it kind of builds off of one another and contributes into the later celebration of light. We include links so that you can share your process with us, so we can learn from each other, so we can celebrate each other's work. Be sure to use the Activity Strong and Shine Your Light hashtags, and then we have contact info on that as well. So that's the same throughout the different guides. We can go back to the PowerPoint. So I believe now, Andrew, are we going to welcome Wendy on the screen?
We are. So Wendy, if you can turn on your camera and unmute yourself. Thank you, Wendy. Wendy is going to join me now in a very brief creative conversation demonstration. So thank you very much, Wendy. Before we start, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself and share everyone who's joining with us just a little bit more information about yourself.
Well, thank you. And it's nice to be here today. My name is Wendy Chasek. I work for the Laureate Group Retirement Communities here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So I'd like to pretend that I'm in this place behind me, but I'm actually in a cold area right now.
Thank you, Wendy. Well, that's perfect, because we're at TimeSlips, we're all about imagination and wishing maybe we were in other places that look like that. So I appreciate that. So right now, as we said earlier, Wendy and I are just going to sort of do a very simple demonstration of what the creative conversation part of this program might sound like. I'm going to ask Wendy a series of these beautiful questions, and as I'm doing so, I'm going to also model that concept of yes and that I mentioned earlier, so that at no point, if Wendy says a response that I might, disagree with, I'm not going to say, no, Wendy, that's not a very good answer. I'm going to do the complete opposite of that. I'm going to accept and affirm whatever response she gives me. You'll probably notice that I will do a lot of echoing as well and repeating the responses that she gives me. And we do that at TimeSlips for a number of reasons. One, to make sure that we did in fact hear a response correctly, but also as a gesture to let that person know that the response they gave was valid, and that we heard them. So Wendy, we're gonna start the demonstration now. And as I do this, I'm also, for everyone else watching and listening, I'm also gonna pay attention to just the first kind of few things that I say as a good example of how to kind of start one of these creative conversations. And I just saw that somebody mentioned the comment that you can't see us, but you can see the slide. As long as you can hear us, Tara, then you should be okay for this part of the demonstration. So Wendy, before we begin, any questions for me, or are we ready to go?
Ready to go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Wendy. It's great to be with you today, even in this virtual way. I'm going to ask you now a beautiful question. And a beautiful question is a question that you can answer however you want. There are no right or wrong answers. However you want to respond to these questions is entirely up to you. So my first question for you is, who is a light in your life? Who is a light in your life?
My daughter.
Your daughter. Thank you. So light in your life is your daughter. And Wendy, can I ask, how does your daughter make you feel?
My daughter makes me feel important, needed. She makes me feel loved.
You said important, needed, and loved. Anything else that any other ways that she makes you feel?
Happy. She makes me happy. She makes me feel supported.
Happy and supported.
Mm-hmm.
Great, fantastic. And maybe Wendy, if you can share with me too, what are some things that they might do, that your daughter might do to make you feel some of those ways? What are some things that your daughter might do to make you feel happy?
She makes me feel happy when she gives me hugs or asks me to do things that she would like me to do with her. She makes me feel, let's see. Anytime she reaches out for help, or that's shouldn't be this difficult, right? There's lots of things.
This is great. You're doing fine. And these are wonderful responses so far. I heard you say that your daughter makes you feel happy when she gives you a hug. And I know that right now it's really hard when we're not able to maybe hug as many people as we'd like. So I wonder, Wendy, if you could show a gesture for what a hug looks like, or how a hug makes you feel. What might a hug look like in a gesture? Could you show me that? So I can see that for anyone that might not be able to see, looks like Wendy made like the shape of a heart close to your chest. Is that correct?
Correct.
It was just hidden a little bit by your name on your screen. Thank you.
Sorry.
That was beautiful. Well, I have one more beautiful question for you. So you've told me so much about your daughter and how she's a light in your life and the ways that she makes you feel. What qualities make your daughter a light in your life? What qualities does your daughter possess that makes her a light to you?
Positivity, spunk, energy, wittiness, at times seriousness, funny, loving. I think that those would be my top answers.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Wendy. So that was our creative conversation. I hope that made you feel good. And I'm really thankful for you sharing a little bit more about your daughter. I feel like I know her a little bit more now from the conversations that we've had. And it sounds like she is a really wonderful person. So thank you so much. You can stay on screen if you'd like, or you can turn yourself off and we'll go back to our presentation. But thank you so much, Wendy. It was really, really helpful. So to continue on, I'm going to pass things back to Sam now, who's going to just kind of recap a little bit of what happened in that demonstration between Wendy and I, and I'll kind of also share some more specific tips on if you're having a creative conversation with someone who may or may not be living with dementia or other kind of abilities, some things to kind of keep in mind that may be a little, make those conversations a little bit different. So pass things over to Sam.
Thank you both so much. That was a great example. So you'll notice that Andrew invited the person into the moment. So he invited Wendy into the moment by explaining what a beautiful question was, and sort of didn't just dive right into it. So it sounded more like a test. It was more welcoming and warm. He followed that by, after he explained what a beautiful question was, he asked one. And Wendy took some time and responded with various things. And you'll notice that Andrew did take some time to echo what he heard. So that's an important moment there because he's validating. Not only is he making sure that he's writing down the correct responses that Wendy shared, but he's validating her responses by repeating them in that way. So that's what we call proof of listening. And that can be done verbally by echoing. It can also be done by head nodding, eye contact if you're in person. So that's an important part there. And then adding on to it. So he, excuse me, Andrew would ask another beautiful question from their response. So in the guide, we have some suggested next questions to ask, which I think for this one, it seems to work well if you learn a little bit about the person or thing that's a light in this person's life. You can follow up with what makes them that way for you, or what qualities. So the questions we list there are great for starters. And I think you'll find the more that you use these beautiful questions and the more you familiarize yourself with them, you might start creating these questions in the moment and be able to really live in that moment together. Next slide, please. So it's good to point out that some people you work with might not answer or respond as quickly as Wendy did, but be sure to allow time for each response. Silence can feel uncomfortable, but it certainly does not translate into a lack of interest. It's found that with many people who have memory loss, it can take up to 60 seconds for someone to respond to a question. So they might just be thinking about it. They might be kind of absorbing that question. And if you find that that question is still difficult, some of the questions are a little bit more metaphorical, rephrase that, and then you can kind of use the questions we have listed underneath to rephrase the question in a way that might get a better response. We encourage you to use positive reinforcements, and be sure to use that there are no wrong answers line. That's an important one and a good reminder for yourself as a facilitator as well. But these positive reinforcements ensure that this is an enjoyable activity. This is not a test. This is just, you know, something that whatever you have to say is exactly what should be written. And then I encourage you to embrace the small talk, especially when working one-on-one. It can seem more intense or like an appointment or something where the person might be nervous to open up in that creative way. So embracing small talk, having just a comfortable introduction into the activity, it helps make the activity feel more natural, which often can encourage the other person to unleash their creative side if they're not experiencing some pressure. So we also remind you to be aware of what you're saying and how you're saying it. And that's more in response to when you're echoing the responses of the person you're working with. So you want to be sure that it is as verbatim as possible, because we're honoring the exact contribution that they had, but also honoring the way that they said it. Or if you're working with someone who is nonverbal, being aware of the physicality, maybe the gestures or the sounds rather than words that they're saying. So keeping in mind how you're saying things is really important, and echoing in a positive way can provide that validation and provide encouragement. And then we encourage you to allow yourself to live in the moment and let them inspire you. This is really a collaborative activity, a set of activities, and letting them inspire new, beautiful questions, letting them lead gives them more creative reign, which is a beautiful and powerful thing. We hope you all get to experience.
Thank you, Sam. Well, now I'm just going to go over very briefly some of the things we mentioned already, but a little bit more information on how specifically you can participate in the Shine Your Light project. So we've already talked about the weekly activity guides that we have created, and Sam and Charles showed you where you can access those on our website. All of the weeks are available now, so if you want to participate in the whole 5-week project, you can access them all right now. While we were able to demonstrate part of the creative conversation today, obviously we don't have time to demonstrate all of the activities that are included in this project. So we also invite you to join the weekly Facebook Live events on Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern, where myself and perhaps Sam on a couple of occasions will go into a little bit more detail the activities from each week. And we'll also kind of show some other demonstrations and provide some other sort of tips and suggestions of what you can be doing to support those activities that week. We also want to be clear that you can participate in this project at whatever level feels right for you. It might be as simple as just using each guiding beautiful question of the week and perhaps you write that question somewhere on a notice board or a whiteboard somewhere in your facility, and people can put their responses up. And that question can also be asked by people kind of throughout the week. That would be great. You'd be having some wonderful creative conversations at different levels in your organization and community. You might decide that you want to do all those activities and sort of go real big with this project, and that's great. We invite you to do that. We also invite you to not feel restricted to only do the activities that are in the guides that we've created. Perhaps these activities might inspire your own creativity to think of other activities that you could do and sort of add that into the program as well. So we just really want to be clear that you can participate in this project at whatever level feels right for you and right for your community members. And then we invite you also, if you'd like to find ways to think about creating some sort of final celebration of light that sort of would be the culmination of this project, that could find ways to celebrate the creativity of both your residents, staff, and maybe find ways to involve community members as well. So I'm going to pass things over to Sam again now, and she's going to share a few tips on things to think about when planning a celebration, and also why a celebrative element of this project is important. So Sam.
Thank you. So at TimeSlips, we believe that celebrations act as a really positive way to bring light to what people of various abilities can do. It's a way for you to showcase your residents as artists and creative people rather than just patients. And, you know, when you think about it, especially in the moment we're living in, everyone wants to be a part of something bigger, and everyone wants to be valued for something. It's a very simple human desire. So in sharing the work that the people have done and the work that you've done together, you can honor them in this way. So as Andrew sort of alluded to with the weekly work, your celebration can be big or small. There's a lot of ways to take it as small or as large as you would like to make it. And I think what's so wonderful about this collaboration with Activity Strong and Link Senior is that we can learn from each other. So by sharing things on social media along the way or emailing us, we can keep in touch and brainstorm new ways or work together to make the celebrations come to light. One thing that will help you, the celebration portion is in week 5. So along the way, being sure to document and have things that are shareable at the end. This can be a combination of photographs, video, audio, but please refer to your organization's guidelines when it comes to sharing images or other information regarding your residents. Of course, each care community will have different guidelines, but we want to be sure to keep privacy in mind when we're sharing. And the other part of a celebration is inviting others into your community. And I don't mean into your physical location, but inviting them to be a part of this collaborative celebration together. So that could be done virtually. For those of you lucky enough to be in warmer states, it might be outdoors, maybe through a window. There are many ways that this can happen, but through mail or postcards. But that is something to consider with your celebration. And while sometimes when I've worked with people in the past, a celebration can sound a little daunting, I promise you it is not. And through the 5 weeks and the Facebook Lives, especially that we have with you, we will guide you through and make it as easy as possible. So I did mention sharing on Facebook and LinkedIn, Instagram. We encourage you to share responses and your progress with staff, family members, and the TimeSlips and Activity Strong network. So when you do that, be sure to use the hashtag #ActivityStrong and the hashtag #ShineYourLight. We also would love to see it through TimeSlips, and you can do that by doing @TimeSlips Creative Care. And it's just a way for us to all learn from each other, as I said before.
Thank you, Sam. And just to let people know too that I will be kind of serving as the primary TimeSlips contact person for this project. So again, I'll be on those weekly Facebook Live sessions, sharing some more information and tips to accompany each week's activities. But if you have other questions or suggestions for other ideas that maybe you want to try and you want to reach out to me with those questions, you can contact me at any time. My email is on the screen there at andrew@timeslips.org. Please invite you to email me. And I want to let you know too that Sam and I will be following, I think there'll be a follow-up email hopefully after this webinar where we'll kind of include some links with additional resources that we've created to support this project. But we also wanted to use this opportunity to let people know that if you are new to TimeSlips and you would like to learn more, we do have a training opportunity for folks to become what we call TimeSlips certified facilitators. So there's a longer, more robust online module that you can participate in to become certified. The process is that you go through the online training and then you're matched with a TimeSlips master trainer. It might even be Sam or myself or one of our other wonderful master trainers who then kind of coach you through a little bit of practice of some of the techniques before you become certified. And so in connection with this amazing project, we're happy to offer a 15% discount that is up now through, I think, around the end of April. So if you are interested in learning more about that, you can go to our website at timeslips.org and sign up for the individual training and certification option. And then the discount code that you'll be asked to prompt in when you're purchasing that is Activity Strong. So if that's something that sounds interesting to you, we invite you to give that a try. But I also want to let you know too, again, that there are other resources on our website in our Creativity Center that are free. So if you are not necessarily interested in that full training option or the cost might be prohibitive, there is a lot of information on our website that's also available for free. So we encourage you to take advantage of that as well. So that's our section of the presentation. So thank you again to Charles and everyone at Link Senior and Activity Strong for allowing us to share this with you and collaborate on this amazing project. I know you have a few more things to share, Charles, and we also want to hear from Alyssa. So I'll pass things back to you.
Sam and Andrew, thank you so much for the amazing presentation. It's exciting to see the amazing work that you put together, and we're even more excited to see what's going to unfold in the coming 5 weeks. I'm going to switch it back to the other deck. And Andrew, I was wondering if you had any comments to share about this. Yeah.
Absolutely. So as we said earlier, that your engagement level in this project can be big or small. There is some information in week 5 that sort of suggests that one thing you could do as part of a larger element of the celebration is to have a sort of silent listening type of party, or use some of the technology that organizations like Eversound can provide, where it's essentially wireless headphones so that residents perhaps could be listening to things. But we highlighted it for this project because for those of you that maybe know our organization, a few years ago, we created a wonderful project in Kentucky where we collaborated with 3 care communities to essentially perform a site-specific theater performance that was inspired by the story of Peter Pan. It was called Wendy's Neverland. And Sam and myself got to participate, got to go and experience the production, and it was beautiful and moving. And one element of that production that was really great, and we sort of lovingly borrowed for this project, was to invite folks to think about if there's recordings of your residents, and there's a poem activity that you'll have a chance to create as well. Maybe recording the voices of your residents reading their poems, and then letting other staff or residents, if you could set this up outside, perhaps if you are in a warmer climate, and let family members or community members come and listen to those as well. I don't know if I can speak for Sam, but I know for me, that was probably one of the most moving moments of that performance, to hear the words of the residents share their poems about themselves. So we just included this as if that is something that does sound exciting to you. Eversound is actually the organization that we partnered with for that project in Kentucky. So we know that they have some experience working with similar communities, and we, again, it's not a required part of this project, but if it does sound exciting and interesting to you, we encourage you to maybe check them out to learn a little bit more about how to make that happen.
Thank you, Andrew. And so again, the contact for Eversound is hello@eversoundhq.com. I'm going to change it to in the slide where we have all of our contacts. And just as a quick note for everyone to know, Sam and Andrew and the team at TimeSlip had put in a more enormous amount of time into preparing all of these. And we collaboratively will continue to support this whole project. One of the things that we will be doing, thanks to Andrew and Sam, are these Facebook Live events at 1 p.m. Eastern every Monday for the next 5 weeks to share with you more details about these weeks and perhaps maybe answer questions. So it's great if you can join us, but the one thing we would like you to know is if you cannot join us, there will be a recording of these videos through the Facebook page that will then be accessible later. So now we have a little bit of time for a few questions, Andrew, and I don't know if you have access to the Q&A, but I have 2 questions that I thought were very meaningful and perhaps we could respond to them to educate the audience. One of them, and I'll just read it aloud, says, "It sounds like the creative conversation is for more functioning residents who can remember. That wouldn't work too well with our other residents with dementia, correct?" Would you mind speaking to that question?
Sam, do you want to start, or I can?
Sure. So beautiful questions can be answered based on recollection or just based in the present moment. You can sort of rephrase the questions to, instead of trying to get a answer from their past, take inventory of the room that you're in or the setting that you're in and think about, ask them what makes them happy in their room. What makes them happy in general. There are ways to rephrase it to make it less memory centric and more just in that present moment. That's where we want to live.
Yep. Thank you. And I would just add too that Sam and I do have experience of using beautiful questions with people who might be living, with various stages of dementia. And again, in those situations, particularly in a one-on-one situation, I want to reiterate that sort of element of patience and time and letting people have some time to respond. But I'm sure we could share numerous sort of stories of people that, if perhaps from family members or staff at a facility where they're living, perhaps very rarely had conversations with them, would sort of attest to our creative conversations and our kind of techniques might be one of the only ways that person actually opens up and responds. And responding in a verbal way is just one way to respond. We didn't get a chance to really go into it in too much detail with that demonstration, but if people can respond with sounds and gestures as well, you can still use yes and as a way to accept that as a gesture or a sound and respond to that. And we still view that as a important moment of connection as well.
Thank you, Sam and Andrew. So just to be clear, this concept of creative conversation is one of the most inclusive method of engaging with anyone, actually. So obviously we're talking about the older adults here. Just to be clear, anyone can actually participate as long as you're patient and you phrase these questions correctly. I remember, Sam and Andrew, I remember the first time I heard about TimeSlip, there was this fantastic sentence, which is, forget memory, try creativity. And for me, it speaks so well about the essence of the organization's work and how we can celebrate each moment with anyone. The other question I wanted to ask you is, and I'll just read it out loud as well, do you have advice for staff members who might feel nervous or uncertain about their own creative capacity and ability to lead an imaginative, creative conversation?
That's an excellent question. And I will, I guess I'll start, Sam, by just saying, I encountered that sort of response or reaction from people that I work with as part of my work with TimeSlips all the time. I'm quite often amazed at how many people aren't able to kind of call themselves a creative person. And so often we at TimeSlips will try to maybe help people rethink their idea of what it means to be creative. And please know that you don't need to be a quote unquote artist to do this work. We will often say that if you can breathe, you can create. Creativity is an innate human characteristic. And I would say maybe like begin by leaning into or thinking about like what are some things that you do in your everyday life that might not be maybe considered like making art, but require a certain element of creativity. Like a great example might be cooking a meal based on whatever items you have in your fridge or pantry that night, and like and making it work, right? Putting together an outfit if you're getting dressed in the morning. I've been wearing a lot of pajamas, and I've not put much thought into what I wear because I'm working from home. But when you're going out for a special occasion, perhaps thinking about like what outfit you're going to put together, that also requires a certain element of creativity as well. So I would say that it's okay to feel that way. It's perfectly natural to be nervous about your own creativity, but give it a try. I would actually say that if you've not done beautiful questions or done a creative conversation before, it'd be maybe before you try this with residents as part of your work, practice it with other people. Practice it if you have children or young people that you live with. Beautiful questions can be wonderful ways to have interesting and weird and fantastic conversations with kids. And that might just be a good way to kind of get into the habit of sort of asking those questions and opening yourself up to that sense of freedom and imagination. Sam, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, or?
I think you did a great job. It's actually one of my favorite parts of TimeSlips is unleashing someone's creativity, or at least showing them that their creativity is within them. And I think in the last year of being in quarantine, we've all had moments of creativity. And certainly people who are working in these settings that you are, doing person-centered care oftentimes, that is innately creative. Adapting needs to each person that you're working with, that is creative in itself. And I think, yes, as Andrew said, testing the questions out on yourself with other staff members, maybe with children at home or a loved one, is a great way to just build that confidence in yourself so that you can inspire it in the people you're working with.
Thank you, Andrew and Sam. Again, a wonderful invitation, and for you to consider these as additional tool in your work and the time that you spend with the older adults, but perhaps also with your loved one and your families, and maybe sometimes with yourself, right? So we're very excited about this partnership, very excited about this coming 5 weeks of Shine Your Light celebration. And we are also extremely excited to actually launch this program. And what better week to launch this program than the National Activity Professional Week. And so with us in a couple minutes, Alyssa Tag from NAP is going to come. Alyssa, feel free to turn on your video. And if you don't mind, in a minute or two, sharing with us the schedule of events of this coming week. Next week, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Charles, and thank you, Andrew and Sam. Great presentation today, and I'm very excited too to work with you and TimeSlips and Link Senior to make sure that everybody is able to enjoy this event. We all love community, and that has been one of the things that we have really missed over this last year is community, and this event that you have introduced will really help us to bring community back together. So thank you. Thank you for doing that as well. And I want to thank everybody else for being here today. And yes, National Activity Professional Week is next week. And the National Association of Activity Professionals has some wonderful things planned for you next week. We have 3 different Facebook Lives that we will be doing, as well as 2 interactive and live webinars that everybody can join in and learn more. We're very blessed to have our president of the National Association of Activity Professionals, Amy Laughlin, will be one of our presenters. And we also have coming back Kathy Braxton. She was one of our past presenters with Link Senior. And so very exciting to have both of those great professionals that are going to share with us the state of the profession and activities specifically, as well as moving forward in talking about how to really rephrase and reframe. Kathy Braxton's also a former theater, so she does a lot of the yes and as well. So that's really exciting to have that combination of the two from this weekend to next week. And we will also be offering live entertainment at the end of next week that everybody can be a part of. I know we did some great entertainment and gave back over the holidays through Activity Strong. And so some of those entertainers have been gracious to return to the scene and offer more entertainment. So we'll be providing a little bit of that as well. One of the really cool things though about this TimeSlips project is in March, NAP will be honored to have Andrew and Sam back to do kind of a wrap up in regards to how everything went down. And I think that'll be super exciting to have everybody come again and gather again to discuss that a little bit further and to just see how it all went and to get kind of some feedback from everybody of how each project went and to share their experiences with it. So we're really looking forward to that as well. So thank you so much again and appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Alyssa. I want to take a minute and thank Wendy again for coming and doing some role play and assisting us with today's presentation. Again, I want to thank you, Sam, and thank you, Andrew, for this wonderful presentation and this invitation to shine light on senior living in our industry. As a reminder, we have these very exciting upcoming webinar and educational opportunity. And with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us today and thank you, the Activity and Life Enrichment Directors out there, doing the most essential work, which is to help the older adult find meaning and purpose every day. Your work is essential, and we look forward to helping you further in 2021. Everyone, have a wonderful afternoon and stay tuned for these upcoming events. Take care. Thanks, Sam. Thank you, Andrew.